Hi, today we're going to be doing a lesson on override your instincts, and it actually focuses on involuntary and voluntary reactions. And so when we think about involuntary and voluntary reactions, think about reflexes. Okay, so when you're working with your students or your son or daughter, you want to really explain what is a voluntary versus involuntary. So voluntary is something that you can do and you think about it, like me moving my hands, open, close, if I want to pick up something. That is voluntary. My mind is thinking about that. Involuntary happens when a situation would arise and you can't control what you're feeling. So, for example, you're at a haunted house and you get that eerie feeling and that you get scared and you scream. That's an involuntary reaction. And so you want to give a couple different examples like that to your students. Or they can watch the student video that I have and I give a little bit more examples as well. So what they're going to need for this lesson is they're going to get some kind of clear material. Something like saran wrap is a great material, something they can put in front of their face or a bag of some sort. So the safety hazard wise, you don't want to make sure they put it over their face or anything like that. You want to keep a certain distance. And then the next thing they're going to need is cotton balls. Thank you. So cotton balls are a great materials that are easy. You can throw. They're not going to hurt. You can use balloons or other kind of materials, something lightweight. But when you notice what happened was when the cotton balls were thrown at me, you notice my eyes went, and my face kind of grimaced a little bit because I noticed something was coming at me. And that is something called an involuntary reaction. So what you want students to do is see if they can override their involuntary reaction. So they're going to hold this up to over their face. You're going to throw something very soft. You don't want the students or your children to be malicious in any means. This is supposed to be a fun and lighthearted activity. So make sure that they're not trying to harm anybody. But it's a great way to get students to start thinking about the natural reflexes that our body creates, especially when fear happens or something else to that nature. A great way to introduce this activity is to start thinking about different reactions that we actually have involuntarily. So I actually have 3 separate bins here. I have hot water, I have warm water, and then I also have cold water. And I want you to see what happens to my hands as I put them into each of these areas. So I'm going to first put my right hand, or my left to what you see, and then my left hand, or to what you see, my right, into cold and hot. And I'm just going to stick it right there until I submerge it. And I'm going to leave it there for a little bit, right? And so as my hand starts feeling that hot water and that cold water, my mind is thinking to myself, my right hand is really hot and my left hand is really cold. Now what you're going to see happen though is when I go and put this back into the warm water, my mind is going to start to think my right hand is actually cold when it was actually hot, and vice versa, my cold is now actually hot. And then when you put them in there, you're going to also notice that sometimes your hands are going to change color. They might feel like one's a little bit more red, etc. So it's really basically the body's saying to itself, wait a minute, this isn't right. Even though it is just warm water, you're still feeling that hot and cold, and that's because of the way our nerves work. So it's a great way to kind of introduce this topic to students, to start getting them thinking about the different involuntary and voluntary reactions we have. So the last thing I want to do, and that's the lesson for the most part, and so you can do a lot of various kind of activities that you want to talk about reactions, whether voluntary or involuntary. You can get them to actually perform certain tasks, or try to have them create some of their own lists. But as a little takeaway, I like to kind of always throw a little bit more science into all of my lessons and videos. What I have here is just a raw egg, and something to denote whether or not an egg is raw or boiled, if you didn't know, is that you can actually spin it. And so I'm getting it to spin, and as it spins, if you stop it, it will continue to move if it's a raw egg. So notice that it's a continuous spin there. So let's watch it again. And as it spins, it's getting in the rhythm. And as I stop it, notice it continues to move. And it's because the innards is a liquid, so it's kind of like a physics experiment, but essentially you know that this is a raw egg, and a boiled egg would actually stop as soon as you stopped it. So just a little fun little tidbit if you didn't know, learn about science. If you have any questions about any other different lessons on our Nasco Educate Resource Center, you can reach out to me at jnelson@nascoeducation.com. This lesson, along with other lessons, are on that platform as well. It's a resource tool to you. It's free to use. Make sure to sign up or request your account today. You can reach out to our social handles and record any of the other different experiments that you have with your students. We love to hear from you. I hope you learned a little bit, and have a great day.